This is Amanda from the 36 LD Democrats. This is our endorsement interview with Sarah Clark running for Seattle School Board Position 2. Sarah, over to you for an introduction.
Thank you, Amanda, and thanks to the 36 Legislative District for having me in and considering me for an endorsement. I am a longtime resident of Seattle. I was born here. I'm an alumni of Seattle Public Schools. I graduated from Garfield High School in 2003 after attending Madrona Elementary School and Washington Middle School. And last year when I volunteered for the vacant seat in District 2, I really felt that there was a void in common sense leadership on the school board, and I felt called to drive for education reform in our local school district. Um, you know, last year, the board received a needs assessment, and the data showed that we have been, as a district, historically underserving 30 to 40% of our students who are our lowest income students, and that trend continues today. And I really identify, I am one of those students that was underserved by Seattle Public Schools. And I believe that the path that we're on right now is not going to get us to the changes that I think we want as a community, as a board, for our children. And so I'm running because I believe that we must reach for real equity, and that part of that includes really paying attention to our budget and coming up with a plan to solve our budget crisis so that we can make our schools safer, we can make education equitable, and we need to include our community in all of that.
Great, thank you. Our first question will be asked by Anita.
Why are you running for school board? What does equity in education mean to you? And how would you ensure equitable access to quality education for all children?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I've worked in education policy locally here in Washington State and Seattle for the last decade. And while this is my first experience doing a campaign for myself, I do have some knowledge and experience in the effort that it takes for systems that are committed to equity to actually transform and from inequitable practices to equitable practices, and the level of diligence and commitment that it takes from leaders to stay on that path and see that work through. And I believe that right now, and really even since I was a kid, we've heard a lot about equity in education in Seattle, and it's like um this something that as of yet we have not been able to achieve as school leaders and as a community. And so to me, trying to do the work of making our schools equitable, which to me simply means that everyone has access to the programs and services that each individual child needs to be successful in reaching their goals for what they want to achieve in life post graduation. And, I think, during my time on the board, I have some real concerns. There's lack of access to information from the community, both to the community, but also board members. There's real lack of understanding about why choices are being made. There is a real lack of concern about our budget, and all of those things must be addressed for us to achieve equity for our students.
Thank you. Our second question will be asked by Tyler.
Seattle Public Schools has set an ambitious goal to operate on 100% zero carbon electricity by 2027, as outlined in their clean energy resolution. While significant planning and initial steps have been undertaken, the district faces challenges in meeting this target. What steps will you take to meet the target?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think this is a really important goal and resolution that was passed to be fossil fuel free by 2040. And I think that um I would do a few things if I'm elected in order to prioritize the measures that advance the racial, environmental, and economic justice. I think first is that it's been several years really since this work has been meaningfully taken up. And so I think that it would make sense to start with, you know, um, getting some new data from our community, doing community engagement, taking a look at the implementation plan to see if it still aligns with where we are today. And then, we really need to work with our partners in the community, whether it's our philanthropic partners, our the business community. Seattle really is a hub for climate change and the technology that we have in our backyard. And so and even partnerships with the city to better understand what policies we need to change and what levers we need to pull to do the work of transitioning our district to a zero carbon electricity. I mean, that deadline is coming soon, right? We're only 2 years away. This really is an important priority for Seattle Public Schools. We know now that you know students furthest from educational justice are often those who are also on the front lines of the negative impacts by climate change. So it's within our values as a board and a community to take this seriously and address this issue.
Great, thank you. Our third question will be asked again by Anita.
Seattle Public Schools are facing a budget crisis. What are practical and tangible steps you are taking and or will take to solve this? And would you support school closures as part of this solution?
Mm. Yeah. So right now, as a board member, I've proposed um, an ad hoc committee that would start in June or July of this year um, to take a look to basically help the district transition the way that we do our budgeting in the first place, as a starting place for lasting change. So currently we budget year to year, even though we have enrollment projections that extend beyond that. And I believe that, we really need to transition into a budget process that allows us to have a longer look ahead. So that we can be better stewards of the resources that we have currently and set ourselves up for success later down the line. We have quite a large deficit. $100 million is a lot of money. And I and to compound that, our rainy day fund, our savings, right, was depleted. And so I believe that, we need to take measures to cut our costs while trying to preserve student services and keep our student services stable. We also need to take a look at what sources, where in our budget we are spending the most money, and look at how we can temporarily scale things back, so that we can get ourselves out of the deficit. All of the work that we're trying to do as a board to serve students furthest from educational justice is going to require an investment, and we can't make those investments properly if we continue to carry a deficit year after year.
Thank you. Our fourth question will be asked by Tyler.
This is our final prepared question before follow-ups. The current federal government is hostile towards public education. These federal attacks have been compounded by ongoing challenges at a state level and new initiatives that undermine student civil rights. How do you anticipate navigating and leading to address these complex and dynamic challenges to student civil rights, laws, funding, and on?
Yeah, right now I've been serving as the board's Council for Great City Schools liaison, and every month we meet as like a group of large urban district leaders, and are very closely tracking, the Trump administration's, and the federal attacks on education, and the undermining of our civil rights. And I think I the way that I plan to kind of navigate this and lead SPS through these really challenging times and changes to our funding is really just to continue to be a bold leader who speaks out against inequities, someone who is willing to champion our students, and keep our students safe no matter what the cost is. I believe, and I talked about this a little bit in the question before, but like our fiduciary responsibility here is critical. If we need to realign the focus of the board onto kind of the core responsibilities of the district that um, that give us the underpinning for the education that students receive. So, our fiscal responsibility, our responsibility to keep students safe physically, emotionally, mentally, and I truly believe that collaboration with our community is a huge part of this. These are big challenges, and we are a system that is, within other systems, and we need to start partnering, asking for help from leaders in our local and state jurisdictions, and really and nonprofit community, and really wrap our arms around these students together instead of trying to go at it alone.
All right, thank you. That concludes our four prepared questions. I'll open it up to the room for any hands that have any follow-up questions. I'll give it a second. We have one from Anita.
My question is how soon to notify parents of an event at school, such as a school shooting on the property?
Sorry, I didn't hear the first part of the question.
My question is how soon to notify parents of an event at school, like a school shooting on the property?
I think as soon as possible. I am not, whatever our policies are that dictate kind of um, how our external relations engages with parents and families in the event of school shootings or other tragic events that happen on campus, whether those are self-imposed policy, right, self-imposed procedures or school board policies. We have not been meeting the needs of our parents and and in how we handle issues of safety on our school campuses. And so I believe that, we need to be notifying our parents sooner, really creating an environment for communication and collaboration when events like these happen, rather than putting up walls or moving into a posture of defense. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Question from Tyler.
I'm just wondering, Sarah, you had a lot that you were sharing with us, and is there kind of a question that you wish we had asked, or is there more to one of the questions we already asked that you'd love to kind of expand upon? So this is more of an open-ended over to you question.
Yeah. I mean, I think, when we were question number 3, kind of talking about the budget crisis and, support of school closures as a part of this solution. I am not going to sit here and pretend that I have this, amazing fail-proof plan to like save SPS's budget so that we don't have to close any schools, and we, are going to be able to transition ourselves quickly out of the situation that it's in. I think it is going to take time. I think it's going to take a commitment from school leaders and from our community to do what we need to do in the short term for the best possibility of better longer term outcomes for our students. I don't know right now if that means we need to close schools, right? I think the plan from last year showed we might save $31 million, right? And we found out this year that every school year last year and this year we're potentially leaving $12 million on the table just based on our enrollment practices. And so I think this is a complex problem that's going to take really bringing in, I think, a lot of third-party perspective and support to help us both navigate the shorter term changes we need to make in our budget, but also help us bring community along on that journey with us as we work towards a new SPS, I think, that meets all of our collective needs and expectations better, most importantly, our students.
Thank you. We have a little bit of time. I was gonna, if nobody else has a question, I was gonna pop in just with a question about you personally. What do you find the most challenging and the most rewarding about serving on the school board?
Mhm. I think the most challenging part of being on the school board is there's two things. One, I feel like there's just not enough time. Like, I would love for this to be my full-time job. And it really is really challenging for me to, I work a full-time job, right? And I know I have colleagues who do the same. And so I think that's one of the biggest challenges. The second, I think, top challenge is, I don't believe that the current board has a collective vision for our school system, and that we spend way too much time in the politics of it all and not enough time in the policy and the solution of all, and a lot of time is wasted, and that's really challenging. What I love the most is engaging with students and families. I've loved going to visit schools in my district and working with student board members, and it's really been a joy. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. I think that concludes the recorded portion of our interview, so I'm going to stop the recording.